how's it going, guys? Enough time has passed for us to see some meta stats already emerging, so we can start seeing what the new best Hearthstone Meta Decks are gonna be. In this video I'm gonna try to give you 5 of the best decks, talk about their mulligans, see if they have win rates, and also give you some general tips so you know how to play with and against these decks. So if you're serious about Hearthstone and enjoy what I'm doing, drop a like and subscribe to the channel, and don't forget you can find for some Hearthstone coaching, as well as check out my Hearthstone Metafy masterclasses. Now let's check out the decks.
Prepared!
As you guys know, we are expecting nerfs a couple of weeks from the release date, so that would be in like 12 days from now, where things are going to be getting nerfed. So if you are low on dust, you might want to craft as minimally as you can. Like we still have things like Elemental Mage basically being a free deck, at least some variants of it. And yeah, try not to be crafting the most broken things out there if you are low on dust, because if it ends up getting nerfed by a common or a rare, you're going to be dead in the water with the bunch of legendaries you might have crafted. So yeah, be careful with that. This is still early stats. I did have to scrape together several different sources so we can start seeing some top meta decks. So yeah, I am gonna have to give you an update video about these maybe in a couple of days from now, so hold on tight. Without further ado, obviously the first meta deck on the list is gonna be Elemental Mage, and according to several different sources, this might be the best variant of the deck right now, even though you're gonna see that from Diamond to Legend, there's actually a variant without Saroon that's actually doing even better than this one, but according to the stats for top Legend, for Legend, the Saroon variant is the superior one. No need to talk about too much about this deck, everybody has seen it plenty of times already. It is the most popular deck for a reason. The whole gist of it is you want to be playing elementals each turn, so you can load up your Lamplighter, and you also want to be playing Saroon around turn 4, turn 5, turn 6. Heck, you could even play this on turn 3 if you have the coin and set up an Aqua Archivist. And after Saroon is in the deck, you want to start drawing as much as you can so you can get yourself some good spell damage idiots, so you can basically OTK people or just chip them away with all of your good fire spell, including Solar Flare, which is amazing for board clears as well, and it's not only something you use after you have a bunch of spell damage, but you could be using this to fight for the board, especially in the mirror matchups. The Molten Ruin is especially great because you get to forge this, and the plus spell damage gets to multiply twice, because instead of adding the plus 7 damage you get from spell damage, you get to add it twice, since this casts twice. We also have the new Spontaneous Combustion for extra phase damage, as well as the Flame Geyser, which can also give you a Flame Elemental, which in some cases you actually want to do, since the deck actually doesn't curve out as amazing as you would expect it to be, because you actually have to be running a lot of expensive stuff, as well as a lot of spells in this one, so sometimes you actually curve out absolutely horrendously, not even being able to play a Elemental till turn 4, which is actually absurd, but we actually did curve out like that in a coaching session with this one. This particular list does have 6 1-drops. Some people do try to cut out 1 Tar Slime. Personally, I do like it in the deck, because you really need all the help you can get to have an Elemental for each turn. But all around, this is very close to the best variant of the deck. We should be even having matchups in this one, yeah we do, and as you can see, Odin Warrior is something that is actually countering you nicely. Everything else looks pretty green, or 50-50 with Dollhouse Druid, which I haven't actually seen so far. As for the mulligan, going first, here's what the stats are showing. You basically want to be curving out nicely. Definitely keep any 1-drop you see, it doesn't matter. Obviously, if you already have a Firefly, no need to keep Glacial Shard, or in some cases Tar Slime, even though the Tar Slime is a pretty nice thing to do on 1, so you can play a Flame on turn 2, which is also another great keep. Shale Spider, Aqua Archivist. Honestly, if you have a 1-drop, you can keep right about any 2-drop. Try not to keep too many of them though, unless they make sense. Blazing Aggression is amazing. Again, if you have a curve, like if you have a 1-drop, this is also a no-brainer when going first. But the rest, probably not such a bright idea, even though Saroon can also be a pretty good keep. Let's say if you're against a Warrior, against a Death Knight, and you already have a 1-drop and an Aggression, God knows you're also going to hold on to Saroon, so keep that in mind. As for on the coin, here you could be a bit more flexible. The 1-drops are not as crucial, because you could be coining out a turn 1 2-drop here as well, but obviously the Flame Elemental is still MVP. Saroon here becomes a lot more keepable, because with the coin you get to drop him a lot sooner. Shale Spider for some card draw if you have a 1-drop, and yeah, you could even consider the Titan Remnant, but that's only if you have a very good curve already. For other good mage decks, like I said, we can actually see that the best variant here is without Saroon, which is basically a free-to-play deck. 0 legendaries here, 0 epics as well, I think, unless some of the new cards are epics, but no, I don't think they are. So this would be the best thing for you guys to be playing right now if you're low on dust. 0 zero crafting required basically. It's nothing but commons and rares, and the win rate is definitely up there. But as you can see, we have a lot more games on the Saroon variant, and also if you switch to top legend, we can see that the Saroon variant, which I just showed you, is the best performer here with a very good sample size, very good win rate. So yeah, if you're low on dust, play it without Saroon, but if you have Saroon, definitely slap him in. On the number 2 spot, apparently Razzle Death Knight is still as strong as ever. This one has no new cards in it, which is kind of interesting. Personally, I haven't seen much of this deck on ladder against me or in coaching sessions, so I'm not really too sure. This one take with a grain of salt, but it is an old deck, so if you had this before, it's probably worth still running with it, because the stats are actually listing this as the best deck with decent sample size too, so ain't nothing wrong with that. This is a straightforward Razzler deck basically, and we are having a couple of blues and a single yellow in here. And the interesting thing about this one is we can also see Leroy in here, so you can have some lethal outs even if you've lost the board somehow. But yeah, all around you load up the Razzler, and after the Razzler drops, that's going to be a massive board. You also have the Brittle Bone Buccaneer in here with several different Death Rattle idiots like Miracle Salesman, like Talnos, like Dreadhound, Harbinger. We actually don't run the free drop card draw idiot, but as you can see, you have plenty to work with. So also don't forget Reska can also be massive. With the Brittle Bone Buccaneer at the later turns, because stealing 2 minions for the opponent while killing 2 minions is absolutely brutal. Matchup-wise, again, Odin Warrior seems to be a counter for you. In some of the new Death Knight lists, the Starship Death Knight apparently is not going to be great. Everything else looks pretty solid, including Elemental Mage, so you have that going for you. Mulligan-wise, nothing too special about it. Try to be curving out decently well. Gorgon Zormu's nice. Horn of the Winter could be a nice keep, even though don't just keep it without anything else. You try to only keep this if you already have a decent hand, so you can tempo it out faster. Location is nice, tempo brittle can be good, buttons is pretty good. Yeah, you basically get the picture. Mining Casualties is also pretty decent if you ask me, and so is Dreadhound. Like, what are these mulligans, man? Let's just go with what people have actually held on to, and yeah, here you can see it much more clearly. These are exactly the cards you're looking for. Apparently location also not that bad, and so is the Horn, but only if you actually have some decent hand with it already. As for on the coin, here's what it shows again, pretty much same stuff. On the number 3 spot we also have Highlander Rainbow Death Knight, which has also been doing amazingly well. Yeah, again, this one is supposed to be doing a lot of good things against elemental mages, so that's why it's so high. It does lose to things like Wheel Warlock and such, because in the end of the day, Wheel Warlock is having enough removal and just an inevitable win condition, whereas you just have a lot removal and not so much inevitable win condition. So obviously you are going to be a little bit on the weaker end there. It's a very expensive deck. I did give you some gameplay action with it last night, so you could check out the deck in action there. But all around, the deck just tries to curve out decently well. You don't have Razzler in here, which kind of sounds weird, even though you have all the different tribes, all the different spell schools, so you can actually draw a bunch with buttons. We have some new cards in the shape of Aerorog Breach, the new Eridar Brute, the Exor of Maladar is absolutely MVP, and we also have the Ceaseless Expanse, so it does have a little bit of new flavor to it, but it's basically a Rainbow Reno Climatic Necrotic Explosion deck, so it should be still feeling quite natural for you to be playing with this if you played something similar before. Matchup-wise, we actually do have stats in it, and Big Spell Mage, if you manage to find one, is not that great. Elemental is actually 50-50. I thought it to be a lot better for a deck like this, but yeah, Hand Warlock is negative. Honestly, it feels like a lot worse of a matchup than these stats represent, but who knows. As for the mulligan, like I said, try to be curving out. It's not going to be very adequate stats here, because in the end of the day, it's 30 unique cards, but yeah, you just try to curve out decently well, try to have a turn 1, 2, 3 kind of deal. And if you have somewhat of a curve already going, you could also keep something like 4 drops and such, but try not to keep too much more expensive than that. And on the coin, kind of the same deal. Here, I'd say you could even consider some bigger cards, like maybe even things like Ziliax, but nah, honestly, it's just way too down along the line, and you do end up with quite the expensive cards earlier than you're supposed to, so just do your best to be curving out with the cheap stuff. The big stuff is gonna come naturally kind of deal. For other good Death Knight decks, here's the list I showed you for the Razzler. Pretty good sample size, almost 1000 games, and almost and above 61% win rate, nothing to scoff at. Whereas the Highlander list, lesser sample size, lesser win rate, but still above average. It is the worst win rate deck out of the 5 I'm showing you, but still pretty respectable 57, and honestly it does feel quite strong indeed. We don't have too much stats for anything else just yet, but we can see some not so great Starship variants at the bottom. I guess we will need a little bit more time for those to actually pick up. Maybe a little bit of balance changes are gonna help them, but for now they're simply not as good. As you guys saw in some of the matchups, Odin Warrior was listed as their worst matchup, and for that reason, Odin Warrior is also very strong right now, so this is the deck on the number 4 spot. And here, we don't really have too much in the new cards department. Honestly, at the first glance, I'm only seeing the Hostile Invader as a new cool card, and this definitely is a crazy good removal card for the warrior class. It has so much AoE on it, like Battle Cry, Spell Burst, and Death Rattle deal 2 damage to all other minions. This includes yours, so try not to kill your Needle Rock totems and such too much. But everything else looks like a good old standard Odin Warrior, which was pretty strong before, and even stronger now, since we don't have Orb Mage out there as much to tsunami your face, so that definitely does help. No need to talk about it too much. Name of the game is try to be curving out, the ramp up, the draw and armor in the early turns, and once Odin drops on the board, you can do some massive amounts of armor gain with the help of your Razorfen Rockstar, with the help of Alloy Advisor, which you could even use Bladestorm on your own Alloy Advisor that way to gain, like, if the board is empty, that is gonna be 18 armor with a single alloy. If you have 2, that would be literally OTK territory. We also have ETC in here with Dirty Rat, so you can maybe play around some combo decks, Overplanner so you can curve out better, and Fizzle if you feel like you are gonna need more armor than what you have in your deck. You have a good amount of removal with things like Brawl, with the new Invader, with Sanitize. Marin helps you curve out. Sleep Under the Stars is pretty flexible, also could be used as straight up 15 armor, or even 21 armor with a single Razor Rockstar. So you can slap for with Odin like that. We also have Ignis in here, so you could get some Wind Fury action, and Ziliax is at the end, and he's the Twin module plus Perfect module, obviously. Matchup-wise, probably not that much stats, but yeah, Elemental Mage is gonna be great for you. Quasar Rogue is gonna be an easy matchup, which is also decently popular. And like I said, Big Spell Mage used to be a bad one for you, but now we really don't see as much of it, so there's that. Mulligan-wise, like I said, try to be ramping, try to be drawing, and if you're expecting to be against a aggressive class like Elemental Mage, also definitely look for some removal. Odin can also be a consideration to keep, as long as you're not afraid of a Dirty Rat against lower decks, so keep that in mind. And as for on the coin, here's what the stats show again, pretty much more of the same. For other good warrior decks, so far we really don't see anything to write home about from Diamond to Legend. Nothing from Diamond 4, nothing in Legend, so yeah, we're gonna have to wait and see for some other classes to emerge. I have been seeing some Highlander Warrior still being out there, running dummies and such, but not enough stats for decks like that so far at least. And lastly, we also have Elemental Shaman. This I did try it last night. I will be giving you a video about it. I actually did kind of well with it. Feels like I was yo-yoing with it a bunch, but honestly, it definitely has potential, and in the end of the day, I'm playing against a little bit of a higher opponent classes, so there's that. From Diamond to Legend, this might definitely be a pretty good deck to be carrying you. This one in particular does not even abuse the rocks as much. It still has a few of the asteroid cards. Oh no, it actually doesn't. So the deck I played last night actually did run some of the asteroids. This one is just straight up elemental stuff. Kinda interesting, I guess. Still pretty good. And this one is not even running the Murmur, which also felt pretty nice in the deck. So yeah, this is basically good old Elemental Mage. Good old Elemental Shaman. Not a single new card in here? Yeah, not a single new card in here. Crazy. But I guess people are still trying to save dust and such, so there's that. It's probably gonna end up not being the best thing for Shamans right now, but it's definitely something to play with until better lists emerge. This one, a lot like the Elemental Mage, you basically try to play an Elemental each turn, so you can chain up the Lamplighters, but you also have some pretty heavy hitters, like turn-free Cruiser is pretty strong, because it's a free mana 4/5 with Rush. You always are supposed to play Elemental, so the Overload part is not happening. Turbulus helps you get +1 on all of your battle criers, and most of your shit is actually battle criers, so keep that in mind. The Living Prairie is pretty amazing because it gives you a couple of free rushers, so you could be controlling the board with them, and they're not elemental, so don't try to do something like Flame Revenant into Living Prairie thinking you're gonna get a bunch of 4/4s out of it. You're not. It's just gonna be on the gonna make a 6/5 Prairie instead. We also have Magathon here, since you only have a single spell in here with a couple of Trusties, so that can be hot. Calamos is pretty nice for that 6 damage. Scar is basically an extra Lamplighter for you, but it's dealing it as an AoE, so that's pretty nice. And we have a couple of Azerite Giants, which should be dropping quite fast for you for very fair amounts of mana. Matchup-wise, we don't have that much, but you have an edge over Elemental Mage and against Quasar Rogue, which both of these were pretty popular on the first couple of days of the expansion, so definitely has that going for it. And as for the mulligan, going first, you're trying to curve out. As for going second, these stats are wrong. Yeah, try to have a 1-drop for sure. Get a 2-drop if you already have a 1-drop, going first especially. And the Mine Cart Cruiser can also be a decent consideration, so could Turbulus, but try not to be keeping anything above 3 mana. As for on the coin, here 1-drops are still MVP, but if you have a 2-drop, you could feel okay about that as well, since you can coin it out. But all around it looks more of the same deal. Rolling Stone can also be amazing, especially if you have a 1-drop. For other good Shaman decks, this is the one I showed you. Not that much sample size, not that high of a win rate as the other I showed you so far, but definitely is looking pretty solid. Rainbow Shaman is still doing as strong as ever, so if you had that, you can keep on running it. And so far, the Battlecry Shaman with the rocks, as expected, is actually not doing as amazing, even though it does have some pretty massive high rolls. I tried the deck, and I was wondering why everybody said it was so good. For me, it was performing pretty poorly, and so far the stats are not in its favor. Feels like it's onto something, but not quite there yet, it seems. That's it for the top 5 decks. I'm also gonna show you what Donkey stats are looking like. This is the top 1000 situation for the last day. And this does reinforce what I already said. We can see Odin Warrior in here, Highlander Death Knight, Elemental Mage, Rainbow DK, even though it's not that hot. But this is top 1000, however, so keep that in mind. We can also see things like Cycle Rogue and Spell Damage and Alonia's Druid being decently good in top 1000. It's gonna need a little bit of extra stats to really see it. Orb Mage is still up there, it seems. And we can also see from Diamond to Legend, get a little bit more stats. And here I'm gonna try to increase the minimum amount of games so we can see some more refinement. Pipsy Paladin still seems to be strong. Dungar Druid is something I tried yesterday, felt really nice. I guess Dummy Warrior is up there as well. Yeah, you basically get the picture. Seems like you have a lot of different options. But let's move back to the HS replay so we can go for the classes we haven't talked about just yet. And so far for Demon Hunter, Pirate Demon Hunter seems to be your best bet according to the stats. This one doesn't have too much new stuff in it. I think it's just a couple of self-used batteries. I guess you are building a decent-ish starship here with the Shattered Turret as well. So it definitely gives you an extra layer of potential threats. But all around, it's Pirate Demon Hunter. With Druids, Dungar Druid looks decent, but so far the stats are really not supporting it. Definitely felt super fun plopping tons of stats with this one. I was not running this thing in it though, because it doesn't have a taunt or anything like that, so it is a little bit of a baity stuff. Dollhouse Druid with Alonia so far, not so hot on these ranks at least. Hunter definitely looks promising with Spell Token Hunter. I tried something along these lines yesterday, but no, it was actually a lot different. It was more like this thing, which so far the stats for it are not that amazing. Definitely felt like it was onto something, but so far the stats are not supporting it too much. For Pallies, we still don't have any stats for Pallies apparently. Libram Paladin is looking promising, but maybe not so much. The 6 mana Libram definitely looks very strong, but all around the deck didn't feel too OP to me. For Priest, still no stats as well there. With Rogue, we have plenty of stats, but they're all bad for the class. The Quasar Rogue definitely is OP when it clicks, but thank God it doesn't click as often. Some people still try to justify that the deck does not deserve a nerf. I strongly disagree, guys. If you think that turn 4 lethal should exist in Standard, you're just smoking something, some illegal substance for sure. Because that's just not something that's supposed to happen in the game ever. You cannot justify from hand OTK that the opponent can't do much about in most cases. Yeah, it's not an easy deck to play, and it's also not uncounterable. Like if you gain a decent amount of armor, if you tempo them fast enough, yeah, sure, you could probably counter them like that, but still, the card is just way too consistent, way too efficient. Even if this happens 40% of the time, it's still very unhealthy, very poor design. You cannot say anything to me that's gonna change my mind that this card is an absolute mistake and should not have been released in this state. So I still strongly believe this thing is gonna get nerfed, maybe even hotfixed. But yeah, for now, the decks we have stats for is just different variations of Quasar Rogue. But as you guys saw, we also have Cycle Rogue in the higher ranks, which can definitely be a very strong option as well, but it's only for the really good players, because it's definitely not a very intuitive deck. With Warlocks, we can see Wheel Warlock is not doing that hot, and I also found it to be a little bit too slow for the meta. So yeah, that's about it for the Warlock class, and that's about it for the meta report as well. Hope you found the video helpful, and if you did, drop a like and subscribe to the channel. Hope this helps you figure out what you want to be playing in this new Hearthstone meta. Don't forget you can hire for some Hearthstone coaching, and check out my MetaFly masterclasses if you still haven't. Thanks for watching, I'm Kris05, and I'll see you in my next video or stream.